Hi, my name is Kris Tenny-Brittian. I get to be your instructor for this Introduction to Christian Ethics. This is our first lecture together. I know some of you, I've had you before in class. Some of you I haven't had in class yet, but I know you from being hither or yon, generally around in the Christian Church Disciples of Christ. For those of you I don't yet know, I'm looking forward to getting to know you better. And one of the things I have learned about teaching this course, and all courses of course, is that we will get to know one another better by the time our 8 weeks or so is up. Well, let's get started. To get started on the right foot, what I'd like to do is walk through the syllabus together. So if you'll take a moment, you can either pause this lecture or I'll give you a moment to go ahead and get your syllabus. And I'm going to switch over to mine. So let's go get our syllabi. All right, hopefully you have your syllabus in front of you now, and most of this we don't need to spend much time on, but let's walk through this anyways. I want to point this out under the course description. For those of you that are in the Christian Church Disciples of Christ, you may know that to move toward and into ministry, you have to show proficiency in 16 ministerial skills and practices. This is the 7th skill and practice. It is ethics, and under each skill and practice there are a number of aspects. Ethics covers 7 aspects, and by the time we finish this course you will have done work, you will have written on, you will have the opportunity to practice all 7 of those aspects. Keep record of this. Keep a portfolio. Save these documents, everything that you write, your question interchanges, everything. Save them, put them into your portfolio so that you're able to demonstrate that you have engaged these, that you have addressed them, and that you have some level of competence in them. Now, for those of you that aren't in the Christian Church Disciples of Christ, know that these skills and practices were very thoroughly discussed. Oh my goodness, they were discussed over years. So know that they have gone over and over and over again, and I can guarantee you that if you'll engage this course and all other courses that you take through the Mid-America Center for Ministry, you will have an extremely great grounding and foundation in the skills and practices well-rounded ministers need. And if you're not heading towards ordination, licensing, lay ministry designation, whatever it is your particular church or denomination may call it, if you're not heading in that direction, at least we hope that you will come out of this course and the other courses with that you'll come out with an understanding of what ministers engage, what ministers need to know, that you will also be a better person for having taken this course and learned and worked with these different principles. So that's our course description. That covers our overall objectives. Required text. I'm going to trust that by the time you are watching this lecture, you have the required texts. I know that all of them are online, or I say online, are available through Amazon.com in Kindle version. I haven't checked Barnes & Noble. I just know that I work with Kindle, and I have 2 of these books on Kindle myself. You may not work well, that may not be your most comfortable way of learning using electronic devices. So get the hard copies just to make sure you have the required texts. Recommended reading, good background information. In addition to the required text and the recommended reading on several weeks, there will be additional readings. You're going to be able to find those in the lessons folder. I know that some of you like to read ahead. That's awesome. Let me say 2 pieces about that. If not already, within the next week, all of the readings, the additional readings, will be in their respective lesson weeks folders. Listen, though, because of the assignments that you will have due, it's not the best idea to read ahead. really concentrate on what we're working on, what we're talking on, because we've structured these various lessons to come together and culminate around the assignments that are due. So a caution about reading ahead. If you're going to read ahead in anything, then read ahead in Robin Levin's book. That, in fact, let me just ask you to do that. If you're going to read ahead in Robin Levin's book. Okay, there we go. Recommended reading. Course requirements, you can see that. You've got the required texts. I have the expectation that you're going to comprehensively engage the readings, the lecture, the devotional, the reflection questions, etc., etc., etc. That means that you need to be reading, listening, and engaging. I know when you're not. You know when you're not. And what I'm looking for is how you bring all of these different pieces together. When I ask you a question about a reading, don't regurgitate the reading to me. Bring in your own words. Go outside. Look at what you can find in blogs or in other sources, what you do get from a search. Bring all those pieces in. Take what others are saying and work with that and make it your own and adapt it, edit it, whatever you need to do. So that's what it means to comprehensively engage material. You show and demonstrate all that by participating in the discussion forum. You can see right there, I'm on page 2. It talks about how to participate in the discussion forum. I interchange the words discussion forum and discussion questions for reflection questions. All right, so when you see reflection questions, we're talking about discussion questions. And discussions come out of our questions and then from one another's discussions. I want you to see too, everything will be posted to you no later than 9 a.m. on Tuesday morning. By the next day, by Wednesday at noon, you need to have done your first response to the reflection questions. And you have to respond by Wednesday noon. That's what, a day and 3 hours. You have to respond by then so that all of you can begin to interact with one another's posts. So everything's posted by 9 o'clock on Tuesday morning. You'll have been doing the reading since you have it in front of you now. No later than the next day, Wednesday at noon, you're going to make your first response. And then by noon the next day, 24 hours later, you'll have begun to interact thoughtfully, respectfully, and ethically with the post of at least 3 other students. Now in these other classes that I've taught, people interact with more than the responses of just 3 students, but for class requirement, within that day, you'll have begun to interact with at least 3 other students. And please refrain from saying, well, that's a nice idea. Oh, I agree. You're interacting with, not commenting on. Okay, I'm not looking for opinions, not looking for just comments. I'm looking for your thinking and your interactions. So we're going to begin to interact within one day, and then between from there on out, from say noon on Thursday until Saturday at 3 p.m., you continue to interact with one another's post. You can see an expectation I have is that you'll continue to check in and you'll continue to interact and carry on the conversation during all that time. Now, Saturday at 3, that's the deadline for interactions. Please don't post anything after that 3 o'clock time, because you need to be winding it down and you need to be getting for worship, if you worship on Saturday afternoon or Saturday evening, and Sunday is Sabbath. No work on Sundays. It is your day off. God first, then you, then family, however you define family. For some of us, it's our close friends are our family. God, you, family, then church. Okay, and we're going to talk more about that in the weeks to come, but that's the way it is. So there is no working on classwork, and preferably not anything else unless you absolutely have to, but not classwork on Sundays. All right, so that's the lessons and the discussion. One other part of this is a weekly devotional. Every week we'll have a devotional. You'll see I have a devotional already posted for this week. It is a sample, but it's also a real devotional. You'll see a sign up. It will be in the discussion, under the discussion tab, or on the discussion page, for you to claim which week you want to write the devotional. What we're doing is taking John Maxwell's book, Ethics 101. There are 7 chapters in that. We're going to take that, have our chapter, incorporate that chapter with scripture and about our class. Does that make sense? So we're taking Ethics 101 by Maxwell. We're going to put some scripture to that, and then we're going to make that into a devotional. You can see from the devotional that I posted, that's not a very long devotional. You'll notice, though, on week 7 that there is a morning and an evening devotional. The reason is week 7 is Thanksgiving week. There are 8 of us in the class, or 8 students in this class at this moment, and there are only 7 chapters in Maxwell. So what we're going to do is take and have one of you do a morning devotional, one in an evening devotional, and that will help us keep our eyes on Thanksgiving. There is a little bit of assignment that week, but I'm hoping by using these devotionals that you'll take them as opportunities to ground yourself. And goodness knows that during Thanksgiving, and Advent starts the Sunday after Thanksgiving again this year, you're going to need grounding. I'm going to need grounding as well. All right, let's keep on going. Number 5, you'll have writing assignments. Your devotional you're going to post to the discussion page. Your writing assignments, there are 4 of those. Send them to me at my personal email. It's on here. It's Kris@effectivechurch.com. Kris with a K, Kris@effectivechurch.com. It's in your syllabus. It'll always, and it'll be posted. All right, so you can see the course expectations, what we expect from, I expect from you. You can see a grading chart after all of this. Let's see, on page 3, I believe it is. Yes, page 3, you'll see the grading chart. You have an A. Right now, you have an A. That A will go up and down each week depending on whether or not you've engaged the readings and the devotional, etc., etc. If you've responded in timely ways, if you've responded and interacted with other posts. Also, these writing assignments, you're going to have to turn them in by the time associated, which is midnight on the night or day that they're due. Know that I know what time you turn them in, and I can allow for a little grace, but when we start talking even half an hour past midnight, and please try not to push it even to 5 or 15 minutes, I know, and the losses begin there. So you can see if we have to, do grade reductions. If for some reason you can't get an assignment done, or you're afraid you can't get it done, let me know and let's work out something. There are emergencies that happen. There are deaths that happen, and illnesses. Talk to me. Don't just blow it off. Talk to me up front. And if you're planning to get married, if you're planning to have surgery, if you've got plans that you know about, let's talk about that beforehand, so maybe we can do some of the work up front. And again, I'm here to help you learn, to help give you the grounding you need in basic Christian ethics. And I want to help you and work with you and help you be successful. But as you know, we have to help ourselves. All right, pages 4 and following, those are the weekly assignments. You can see there, let's just take week 1, October 13th through 19th. That's this one. Introduction to the course, Introduction to Ethics, Historical Philosophical Overview. We're going to touch on that in a few moments. There will always be the resources to engage. In this case, Lecture 1, the devotional. You're to begin to read Levin, the preface through page 24. I don't expect you to have read it by right now, but just start getting it read. And then I want us to be looking at models of decision making, and I'll be sharing those. Those are up under the lessons as well. Your assignments, if you haven't already, post your bio. Choose which week your devotional. You're going to do your devotional. Respond to the reflection questions that will be up under the discussion tab. Respond to the posts of at least 3 others. Continue interacting with posts. And if you're the person with week 2's devotional, your assignment is to start getting that together so that it's posted by next Tuesday at 9 a.m. Okay, let's see, what else do we want to do? So we're going to move through that. You can see when assignments are due, writing assignments at the bottom of page 6, and then on the final page, page 7, you'll see what the expectations are for getting all of that done. All right, so there we are. This is our word on assignments. We've talked about this week. We're moving through that, and a word about the books. I want to say in particular a word about Milko's book, Effective Dilemmas in Church Leadership. It is an older book. It is written from a more conservative perspective, relatively speaking, and I know that it's going to tick some of you off. If you started reading in it, I am sure some of you are thinking, what on earth is she thinking? And what am I supposed to do with any of this? Don't want to do anything with it. Well, a wise professor once counseled a class I was in. We had a huge amount of required reading, supplemented by requested reading, and a lot of it was just way off the wall. And students seemed to be way off the wall. Students questioned that. There was a lot of pushback. And the professor said, there's a reason why readings are on a syllabus. There's a reason why we ask you to read them. There is some benefit one way or another in them. And I want you to go into Milko with that understanding. There is a reason I have you reading that. More than one reason. There's a method to my madness. On one hand, well, let me say what I'm hoping you know, but let's be explicit about that. We bring in a variety of viewpoints, thoughts, opinions, theologies, and they don't all agree. We aren't going to agree with everything everyone says. Now, I've used that word respect already, and I want to say it again. We are not practicing tolerance in this class. We are practicing respect. It means that I will try to hear you. I will listen to you, or I will read you, and I will try to understand you. I'm not going to jump to conclusions. I'm going to work on my own baggage. If there is something that makes you immediately put up a wall or push back, it's time to take a deep breath, to stop for a few moments, and to ask yourself, why am I pushing back against this? It's about I. Why am I pushing back against this? Not because you don't understand, not because you're to this or you're to that or you're not enough of that in this. It's, why am I reacting? It's a key practice for making it through situations ethically. So we're going to be respectful, and we're going to travel ahead, understanding, maybe believing, please believe, that we all have something to learn from each of the others in this class, myself included. Milko is going to push you. He is he's conservative. Let me just say it that way. He is conservative. He writes from a very male-centric perspective. Women, Men, if you have trouble with that language, press forward. Everything in that book is something you're going to encounter, at least as far as the language and the perspective are. I want us to take the glimpses of all of that and make it our own. He's going to talk about biblical passages, biblical perspectives. If you don't agree with his, make them your own. I want you to demonstrate that you're able to do that. Do not blow him off. He's got a lot of validity to him. I got to hear Marcus Borg speak a few years ago, a number of years ago, and during his lecture, right after his first lecture, the room was open to questions, and one of the attendees said, Dr. Borg, you keep talking about God as he, and you're talking men and man, and what about the rest of us? And God is not a he. And Marcus Borg, those of you who've read his work know of him, just know what a brilliant, brilliant man he is, and very inclusive. And he said, you know, God does not have gender, but I was raised using male pronouns when talking about the divine. And I was raised in a time when we talked about man and men, and it means human. Okay. That's what we're reading here. When Milko talks about man, overall, he's talking about humans. And there are some more specifics, but again, we're going to work through that. So be open, just translate in your head. Again, good practice for when you're talking to somebody and they use language that is uncomfortable to you, that you don't like, you're going to be translating in your head. Translation is not just from one language to another. Well, you know what? It is. And this is moving from one language to another. Okay, so that's about Milko. Sorry, I do want to say this one last piece, and that is with respect. Respect means getting past our baggage, getting past our anger. It means finding ways to respond rather than react. I'm going to be looking for that. Responding, not reacting. Respect means being open to learning, not merely teaching. It means setting aside our pridefulness, which is not the same as not pridefulness and pride are not the same thing. It is one thing to be proud. It's something else to be prideful. So respect means getting past our being prideful. And it means to look for the integrity in what somebody else is saying. All right, I think we have made it through here. We've talked about the books. I want to talk for a moment about ethical models of decision making, and then I'll let you go. All right, so there are different models for making ethical decisions. I'm going to post these up there for you as one of your readings this week, or really your other reading, something to glance at. Okay, there are basically 4 different ways to look at to approach something ethically. So theories, theoretically speaking. One is okay, let's try this again. Teleological, right? Teleos is the end times. So when we're looking at teleological theories of ethics, it means that we're going to look at the consequences or the end. So if I'm looking at a situation, I'm trying to figure out what's the end results if I'm looking at it teleologically, right? There's ethical egoism, and that's the sense that people are meant to act for the greatest good. And generally get that word egoism, right? It's ethical egoism. That means they're going to work for their own greatest good. So if I'm making a decision, my question is going to be, what's best for me? If I'm trying to judge something ethically, that would be what's best for me. There's also utilitarianism, and this is the one at least I think I see the most in the world, and is very much wrapped up in the public sphere. Utilitarianism has us look at the situation in terms of what determines the best good for the whole, right? So what is going to be the best decision for the greatest number of people? And then there's the deontological approach to ethics. That's where we're really coming at in this course, the deontological. And that is to work from a sense of a sense of duty or moral law. These theories are more than egoism. It's not about egoism. It's not about utilitarianism. It's about a moral code or a moral law, which is what we have, right, in the Bible and as Christians. That's why we're going to be looking at the deontological approach, or working through the deontological approach. Now, I've tossed a lot of pieces out here to you, so let me give you an example. Let's see if I can do this. Try to give you an example of a situation and how we might make an ethical decision based on these different aspects. So let's say that we have a situation in our church where one of our spiritual leaders, and the disciples, they're elders. For some of you, those are going to be deacons or trustees. It may be a teacher, it may be an elder. But let's say that you've got one of these spiritual leaders in your congregation, and you have learned that she's having an affair. Okay, she stepped out on her mate. From a teleological aspect, if we're trying to decide whether or not we're going to address this, or whether or not we're how we're going to address it, we're going to look at what's the end result. We're going to think, well, would it matter if we don't? Right? What happens if we do? What happens if we don't? So often in this teleological theory, we'll hear ourselves saying, well, what if we don't? Right? Because goodness knows we don't like to address problems. If we were looking at that from an ethical egoism, then I might say I'm the minister, I might say, well, what will that look like for me if we decide to pursue it? Or what would people think if it was about, think of me as the minister? Or what, with that working, and if it disrupts everything, what will that say about other leaders in the church, including me? Ethical egoism. Utilitarianism. Wow, there's just been conflict in this congregation, and if we bring it up, it could just blow everything apart. Really, what here's that teleological piece again. What would happen if we didn't address it? What do you think? Because I just think we'd all be better off. Or another aspect of that might be, oh my gosh, what's that going to do to her family? I don't know that we can do that. That could be a real problem, could really destroy her. Okay, utilitarianism. Deontological. We're going to ask, what's right? What's wrong? How do we know? How do we address this in a way that is fair, in a way that is in accordance with Scripture and what and tradition, what we understand how God would want to address that. And I know that some of you are thinking, oh my gosh, what is she saying? Because there we are, we're going to just thump that Bible. And others of you are saying, wow, what is she saying? Because it is so clear, black and white, it's all in the Bible. But there are a lot more nuances to that, which is why you're in course number 7 at Mid-America Center for Ministry, Introduction to Christian Ethics. We're going to learn more about the nuances. We're going to look at different pieces, and we're going to have a good time. I promise you, we're going to work hard, but we're going to all come out here, as I said up front, much stronger, much wiser, and much better leaders, people, ministers, lay people, all of that put together. So stick with me here. Let me know if you've got questions. Always, please, I am approachable. Call me or email me. Don't hold back. You're not going to offend me. I promise. Be open, be honest. I promise you that I will be open and honest with you. I am known for saying what I mean, meaning what I say, and speaking the truth in love, even when it hurts me, even when it's hard. All right. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Look forward to seeing you on those discussion in those discussion pages. Have a great week. Bye-bye.